Two little girls asking for scraps on the street get lost in the woods and spend hours terrified in a small cave. When their phone catches signal with its last bit of battery, they dial emergency services and a CEO answers instead. He races through the forest with his team to find them, and when he brings them home, he discovers their mother is a beautiful blonde woman who seems strangely familiar. Sometimes fate uses a wrong number to write the greatest love story, and sometimes the most powerful men learn that true wealth has nothing to do with money. Before we begin this story of justice and redemption, type HOPE in the comments and tell us which country you're watching from. Nathan Reed's phone buzzed at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. He was in the middle of a board meeting at Reed Technologies, his billion-dollar tech empire that had made him one of the youngest CEOs in Seattle's history. At 34, he was known for his ruthless business acumen, his impossibly high standards, and his complete inability to form meaningful human connections. The number on his screen was unfamiliar. He normally wouldn't answer, but something made him excuse himself from the conference room. "Reed," he answered curtly, already preparing to hang up on whatever sales pitch was coming. Instead, he heard crying, small, terrified crying. "Hello? Please help, a child's voice whispered, trembling with fear. "We're lost, it's getting dark, we're scared." Nathan's entire body went rigid. "Who is this? Where are you?" "I don't know." The girl was sobbing now. "We were asking for food, and we went into the woods to find berries, and we got lost. My sister and I are in a cave. The phone is almost dead. Please help us." His mind raced. This wasn't possible. His personal number was unlisted, highly secure. How had a child gotten it? "How did you get this number?" he asked, already moving toward his office. "We dialed 911, but you answered," the girl said. "Please don't hang up. We're so scared." Nathan's heart hammered. This didn't make sense. Emergency services couldn't route to his personal line, but the terror in the child's voice was absolutely real. "I'm not hanging up," he said firmly, switching to speakerphone as he grabbed his jacket. "What's your name?" "Mia. My sister is Zoe. She's crying. We're 4 years old. We have some crackers, but they're almost gone." There are noises outside the cave. 4 years old, twin girls, alone, terrified. Nathan felt something crack in his chest, something that had been frozen for longer than he could remember. "Listen to me very carefully, Mia. I'm going to find you. Can you see anything outside the cave?" "Trees. Lots of trees. And there's water. We can hear water." Nathan was already at his office door, barking orders to his assistant. "Jennifer, I need the tech team now. Emergency trace on my personal line, and I need a helicopter ready in 5 minutes." Jennifer's eyes went wide, but she moved immediately, pulling out her phone. "Mia, are you still there?" Nathan asked, heading toward the elevator. "Yes," she whispered. "The battery says 3%. What if it dies?" "It won't," Nathan lied. "My team is tracking your signal right now. Tell me about the cave. Is it big or small?" "Small. We can touch both sides if we stretch our arms. There's water dripping from the top. And there's pictures on the wall. Old pictures, rock formations with petroglyphs, water nearby." That narrowed it down considerably. Nathan's mind was working at lightning speed, cataloging every hiking trail report, every wilderness area around Seattle. "The water you hear, is it moving fast or slow?" "Fast, like it's going over rocks. A stream or small waterfall." Nathan was in the elevator now, descending to the executive parking level where his helicopter pad was located. "Mia, you're doing so well. Your sister is lucky to have you. Are you both warm enough?" "We're cold. We only have our hoodies. Mama told us not to go too far, but we saw a bird and we followed it, and then we couldn't find the way back." Nathan's throat tightened. "Where is your mama now?" "At home. She'll be so worried. We were supposed to come back before dark. We were just getting food to help her." Getting food to help her. These children were foraging to help feed their mother. The image made Nathan's stomach twist. The elevator doors opened. His head of security, Marcus, was already there with a tablet showing a map with a pulsing red dot. Got them, Marcus said grimly. Cascade foothills near Tanner Creek. It's rough terrain, but we can get there by helicopter in 12 minutes. Nathan nodded, phone still pressed to his ear. Mia, we found you. We're coming right now. Can you see the sky? A little bit, through the trees. In about 10 minutes, you're going to hear a loud noise. It's going to sound scary, but it's actually good. It's my helicopter coming to get you. Can you and Zoe stay in the cave until you see me? How will we know it's you? Nathan almost smiled despite the situation. Smart kid. I'll be wearing a dark blue jacket and I'll call your name. Don't come out for anyone else, okay? Okay, the phone says 2% now. That's fine. You did everything right, Mia. You're very brave. Stay on the line as long as you can. Nathan climbed into the helicopter, Marcus and 2 members of his security team right behind him. The pilot had the coordinates and they lifted off within seconds. Through the phone, Nathan could hear both girls crying softly. It was the most heartbreaking sound he'd ever heard. Tell me about your mama, he said, trying to keep them talking, keep them calm. She's beautiful, Mia said. She has yellow hair like the sun. She works a lot. 3 jobs. She gets really tired, but she always hugs us goodnight. 3 jobs. Yellow hair. A mother working herself to exhaustion for her 4-year-old twin daughters who were out foraging for scraps because they didn't have enough to eat. Nathan had donated millions to charity over the years. He'd written checks, attended galas, made speeches about corporate responsibility. But it had all been abstract. Numbers on paper. Tax deductions. This was real. She sounds wonderful, Nathan said quietly. She is. She sings to us. And she tells us we're going to have a better life someday, she promises. The phone crackled. The battery was failing. Mia, if the phone dies, don't worry. We can see exactly where you are. I will find you. I promise. Promise like how Mama promises. Exactly like that. The kind of promise you don't break. The line went dead. Nathan stared at his phone for a moment, then looked up to see Marcus watching him with an expression he'd never seen on his security chief's face before. Sir, you okay? How long? Nathan asked tightly. 7 minutes. It was the longest 7 minutes of Nathan Reed's life. The helicopter flew over dense forest, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows through the trees. Below, Tanner Creek wound through the landscape, white water tumbling over rocks. There, the pilot said, pointing. Cave entrance, 10 o'clock. Nathan saw it. A small dark opening in a rocky outcrop, partially hidden by undergrowth. The helicopter couldn't land close, the trees were too dense. Put us down in that clearing, Nathan ordered. I'll go on foot. Sir, let me, Marcus started. No. Nathan's voice was steel. I told her I was coming. I promised. They landed, and Nathan was out before the skids fully touched ground, running toward the tree line. Marcus and the team followed with flashlights and emergency supplies. Nathan crashed through the underbrush, ignoring branches that tore at his expensive suit jacket. The sound of the creek got louder. He oriented himself using the GPS on his phone and moved toward the cave entrance. Mia, he called. Zoe, my name is Nathan. I'm here. For a moment, nothing. Then a small voice from inside the cave. You have a blue jacket. Yes, I'm coming in now, okay? He ducked through the cave entrance and had to crouch almost double to fit. His flashlight beam swept the small space and landed on 2 small figures huddled against the back wall. Twin girls with blonde hair and pink hoodies, dirt-streaked faces, and identical blue eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. They were holding hands, trembling. Nathan's heart shattered. He moved slowly, carefully, not wanting to scare them. Mia, Zoe, I'm Nathan. You're safe now. The girl on the left, Mia, he guessed, stared at him for a long moment. Then her face crumpled and she started crying in earnest. You came. You really came. I told you I would. Nathan knelt down, making himself smaller, less threatening. Can I come closer? Both girls nodded. Nathan crawled forward until he was right in front of them. "You were so brave," he said softly. "Both of you. Calling for help was exactly the right thing to do." "We were so scared," Zoe whispered, speaking for the first time. Her voice was hoarse from crying. "I know, but you're safe now. I'm going to take you home to your mama. Would that be okay?" They both nodded frantically. "Are you hurt anywhere? Does anything hurt?" They shook their heads. They were cold and terrified, but miraculously uninjured. Nathan shrugged off his jacket and wrapped it around both of them. It was huge on their tiny frames, but it was warm from his body heat. "Can you walk, or do you want me to carry you?" "Carry," they said in unison. Nathan scooped them both up, one in each arm. They weighed almost nothing, 4 years old and light as feathers because they weren't getting enough food. He carried them out of the cave into the fading daylight. Marcus and the team were waiting, and one of them immediately draped thermal blankets around the girls. "Medical check when we're airborne," Nathan ordered, "and I need a trace on their home address. Find their mother." The helicopter ride back should have been terrifying for 2 4-year-olds, but Mia and Zoe were so exhausted they fell asleep almost immediately, curled together in Nathan's lap with their heads on his chest. He held them carefully, feeling the steady rhythm of their breathing, the trust they'd somehow placed in a stranger who'd promised to save them. His phone buzzed. A message from Jennifer. Address located. Adrienne Hayes, Beacon Hill area. Sending details now. Nathan looked at the address and his eyes narrowed. Beacon Hill was one of Seattle's lower-income neighborhoods. The building number matched one of the older apartment complexes he knew had issues with maintenance. The helicopter touched down at his private helipad at Reed Technologies. An ambulance was already waiting, but the paramedics confirmed what Nathan had assessed. The girls were cold, hungry, and exhausted, but otherwise unharmed. "I'm taking them home," Nathan said. Marcus raised his eyebrows. "Sir, we could have a car." "I'm taking them," Nathan repeated. There was no room for argument in his tone. He carried both sleeping girls to his car, a black Mercedes SUV he rarely drove himself, and secured them carefully in the back seat with blankets around them. The drive to Beacon Hill took 15 minutes. Nathan used the time to look up everything he could find about Adrienne Hayes. The results were sparse: no criminal record, no social media presence. Employment records showed her working as a house cleaner, a night shift waitress, and a weekend retail clerk. 3 jobs, just like Mia had said. No record of a husband or partner. No vehicle registered to her name. No home ownership. A woman alone, working 3 jobs to support twin daughters in a city with a crushing cost of living. Nathan pulled up in front of a tired-looking 4-story apartment building with peeling paint and a broken front gate. He gathered the still-sleeping girls in his arms and headed inside. The lobby smelled like mildew and old carpet. The elevator had an out-of-order sign. Nathan climbed 4 flights of stairs with the girls, following the apartment number from his phone. 4C. The door was scratched and the number was slightly crooked. Nathan balanced both girls in one arm and knocked. For a moment, nothing. Then he heard footsteps, running footsteps, and the door flew open. The woman on the other side stopped dead. She was maybe 28, with long blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing old jeans and a faded t-shirt. Her face was pale, her blue eyes red and swollen from crying. She looked absolutely exhausted and utterly terrified. But she was beautiful, stunningly, devastatingly beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with clothes or makeup, and everything to do with the fierce desperation in her eyes as she saw her daughters. And Nathan knew her. His heart stopped. The room tilted. Because standing in front of him, staring at him with shock and recognition and about 1,000 other emotions, was Adrienne Hayes, who he'd known as Adrienne Laurent 7 years ago, who he'd met at a charity gala when he was a junior executive trying to make his mark, who he'd spent one incredible week with before she'd disappeared without a trace, leaving only a note that said she was sorry, but it could never work, who he'd tried and failed to find for months before finally forcing himself to move on, who apparently had been living in poverty in his own city for the last 7 years while raising twin daughters who were, Nathan did the math with a jolt of shock, born approximately 8 months after that week they'd spent together. "Nathan," Adrienne whispered, her voice breaking. Oh my God, Nathan. And then she saw Mia and Zoe in his arms and everything else disappeared. She lunged forward, taking both girls from him, tears streaming down her face as she held them, checked them over, kissed their foreheads. I thought. She couldn't finish the sentence. Nathan stood in the doorway, his entire world realigning. Watching this woman he'd never forgotten hold two little girls with blonde hair and blue eyes who looked nothing like him, but had his stubborn determination in the set of their jaws. Can I come in? He asked quietly. I think we need to talk. Adrienne looked up at him, her eyes filled with fear and exhaustion, and something that might have been hope but looked too painful to name. Yes, she whispered. Yes, come in. And Nathan stepped through the doorway into the tiny apartment, following the sound of two little girls whispering, Mama, Mama, and the sight of a woman who'd haunted his dreams for 7 years. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was never walking away from this door again. The apartment was tiny. Nathan had walked into mansions with closets larger than this entire living space. One room that served as living room, kitchen, and dining area. A narrow hallway that presumably led to bedrooms and a bathroom. But it was clean. Meticulously clean. And there were signs everywhere of a mother doing everything she could with nothing. Hand-drawn pictures taped to the walls. Books from the library stacked neatly on a crate being used as a bookshelf. Curtains that had been carefully hemmed from sheets. Adrienne carried the girls to a worn couch and held them, rocking back and forth, whispering to them in a language Nathan recognized as French. Her hands moved over them constantly, checking for injuries, reassuring herself they were real and safe. Mia and Zoe were fully awake now, talking over each other, telling their mother about the cave and the helicopter, and the man with the blue jacket who'd promised to find them. Nathan stood awkwardly in the doorway, feeling like an intruder in this intimate reunion. He should probably leave, give them privacy. Come back another time to have the conversation they clearly needed to have. But he couldn't move. Couldn't look away from the woman he'd never forgotten, and the two little girls who might or might not be his daughters. The math was there. The timing worked. But Adrienne had left without a word 7 years ago. If the girls were his, why wouldn't she have told him? Finally, Adrienne looked up. Her eyes met his and the impact was physical. 7 years dissolved. He was back in that hotel suite, watching her laugh at something he'd said, feeling more alive than he'd ever felt before or since. Mia, Zoe, Adrienne said softly, switching back to English. Can you go to your room for a few minutes? Mama needs to talk to Mr. Reed. But Mama, Mia started. I know, sweetheart. We'll talk about what happened and why you scared me so badly. But first, I need to speak with the man who brought you home. Okay? The girls looked at Nathan with identical expressions of uncertainty. It's okay, he said gently. I'm not going anywhere. I just need to talk to your mama. They nodded and disappeared down the hallway, whispering to each other. Adrienne stood slowly, wrapping her arms around herself. She looked like she might shatter at any moment. Thank you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Thank you for finding them. I've been searching for hours. I called the police, but they said I had to wait 24 hours for missing children unless there was evidence of foul play. I was about to walk the entire forest myself. How long were they missing? Since this morning. I worked night shifts at a diner. I got home around 7 a.m. and they were gone. There was a note, God, they can barely write, saying they went to find berries to help Mama. I've been searching ever since. Nathan's jaw tightened. You've been looking for them for 8 hours? I called everyone I know. I've walked every street in this neighborhood twice. I was so scared. Her voice broke. She looked like she was about to collapse. Nathan moved forward instinctively and caught her arm. The touch sent electricity through both of them. Adrienne gasped and pulled back. Sorry, Nathan said quickly. You should sit down. You look like you haven't slept. I haven't, not much anyway. But she sank onto the couch and Nathan carefully sat in a chair across from her, maintaining distance. For a long moment they just looked at each other. You look exactly the same, Adrian finally said. Older, but the same. You look exhausted, Nathan replied bluntly, and terrified, and like you've been working yourself to death. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Yes, well, that's fairly accurate. Adrian, what happened? The question came out rougher than he'd intended. You disappeared. 7 years ago. I looked for you. I tried everything. And then I find you here in my own city raising twin daughters who are... He stopped. Couldn't finish the sentence. Adrienne closed her eyes. They're 4 years old, Nathan. I know you can do the math. The confirmation hit him like a physical blow. They're mine. Yes. You left when you were pregnant. You disappeared. You've been raising my daughters alone in this... He gestured around the apartment. In this situation, and you never told me. Adrian's eyes snapped open. Don't you dare judge me for this apartment or this neighborhood or the fact that I'm poor. I've done everything I could with what I had. I'm not judging the apartment, Nathan said tightly. I'm judging the fact that you kept my children from me for 4 years. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. Adrian stood up, pacing the small space like a caged animal. Do you remember how we met? Of course, charity gala. You were there with your family. You told me you were visiting from France. I was there with my uncle's family, Adrian corrected. My parents died when I was 18. My uncle Marcel Laurent took me in. He's wealthy, powerful, connected. He had business in Seattle and he brought me along. Nathan remembered. The Laurent family. Old French money. He'd been impressed and intimidated and utterly captivated by the beautiful blonde woman with the sad eyes and the bright laugh. We spent that week together, Adrian continued, and it was perfect. You were brilliant and ambitious and you made me feel alive for the first time since my parents died. But I knew it couldn't last. Why not? She turned to face him. Because my uncle had already arranged my marriage. The words hung in the air like a bomb. What? To a business associate, Pierre Dubois, 52 years old, controlling, cruel. My uncle owed him money and this was how he decided to pay. I was his collateral. Nathan felt rage building in his chest. You were going to be sold to pay a debt? I was supposed to marry him 3 months after that Seattle trip. I tried to refuse. I told my uncle I'd met someone, that I wanted a different life. He laughed at me. Her voice was flat now, emotionless. He told me I was being childish, that my duty was to the family, that I would marry Pierre or I would be cut off completely. So you left. Not immediately. I tried to convince him, tried to find a way out, and then I found out I was pregnant. Nathan's hands clenched. And you still didn't tell me. Nathan, you were a junior executive at a company trying to survive. I was carrying twins and being pressured to marry a man who would have killed me if he'd found out I was pregnant with another man's children. What exactly did you think you could do? Anything, everything. I would have... He stopped, running his hands through his hair. I would have done whatever it took. I know. That's why I didn't tell you. He stared at her. What? Adrian's eyes were bright with unshed tears. You would have tried to save me, and it would have destroyed you. My uncle had connections everywhere. He could have ruined your career, your reputation. Pierre had ties to people who didn't solve problems legally. I couldn't let you throw away everything you'd worked for because of me. That should have been my choice. You're right, it should have. But I was 21 and pregnant and terrified, and I made the best decision I could at the time. She wrapped her arms around herself again. I ran. I emptied my savings account, used a fake ID to get across the border into Canada, and I disappeared. And you've been here ever since? Not the whole time. I moved around for the first year, different cities, different names, always looking over my shoulder. The girls were born in Vancouver. I worked whatever jobs I could find that paid cash and didn't ask questions. And then about 3 years ago, I decided I was tired of running. So you came back to Seattle. I came back because this was the last place they'd look for me. And because... She stopped. Because what? Because this was where I'd been happy. Even if it was just for a week. Even if it could never happen again. I wanted to be somewhere that had good memories. Nathan stood up, needing to move, needing to process. Your uncle, Pierre, are they still looking for you? I don't know, I assume so. My uncle doesn't like being disobeyed, and Pierre doesn't like being denied something he considers his property. She said the last word with bitter anger. You're not property, and you're not doing this alone anymore. Adrian laughed, and this time there was an edge of hysteria to it. Nathan, you're a billionaire CEO. You have a reputation, a company, a life. The last thing you need is an international scandal involving a runaway French heiress and secret children. I don't care about a scandal. Those are my daughters, He stopped. I'm what? The woman I never got over. The person I compared everyone else to for 7 years. The one who got away, but he couldn't say that. Not now. Not when everything was so complicated. You're the mother of my children, he said instead, and you need help. Let me help. I don't need charity. It's not charity. It's co-parenting. It's making sure Mia and Zoe don't have to forage for scraps in the woods to help their mother. It's making sure you're not working yourself to death trying to survive. Adrian's composure finally cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I tried so hard. I worked so hard. But it's never enough. The rent goes up, food gets more expensive, and I can't give them anything. Do you know what it's like to watch your children wear clothes from donation bins and know they're hungry, and not be able to fix it? Nathan crossed the distance between them, and did something he knew was probably a mistake, but couldn't stop himself from doing. He pulled her into his arms. She stiffened for a moment, then collapsed against him, sobbing. He held her, feeling her shake, feeling her break apart after years of holding everything together alone. I'm here now, he said quietly, and I'm not leaving. We'll figure this out. Together. They stood like that for a long time, in the tiny apartment with the hand-drawn pictures on the walls, while two little girls whispered to each other in the bedroom and tried to understand why their mama was crying with the man who'd saved them from the cave. When Adrian finally pulled back, her face was blotchy and her eyes were swollen, but there was something in her expression that hadn't been there before, something that looked almost like hope. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Neither do I, Nathan admitted. I found out I had daughters about 30 minutes ago. I have no idea how to be a father, but I know how to solve problems, and I know that you and the girls deserve better than this. Nathan, just let me help, please. We'll take it one step at a time. She studied his face for a long moment, and he let her see the sincerity, the determination, the fear he was trying to hide. Finally, she nodded. One step at a time. First step. Have you eaten today? She blinked at the question. No. I was looking for the girls. When did you sleep last? I worked a night shift. I was supposed to sleep this afternoon, but your daughters were missing. Nathan pulled out his phone. I'm ordering food. What do the girls like? Nathan, you don't have to. What do they like? Adrian sighed. Pizza. They love pizza, but we usually just have pizza it is. Anything else? Specific toppings? Just cheese. And if there's a salad? Nathan was already placing the order from his favorite upscale Italian place. He added pizza, salad, breadsticks, and pasta. Enough food for several meals. When he finished, he looked up to find Adrienne watching him with an unreadable expression. What? You just ordered more food than we usually eat in a week. The casual statement hit him harder than any accusation could have. Then I'll order more tomorrow. And the day after. And every day until you don't have to worry about whether your children will eat. This is too much. It's not nearly enough. A sound from the hallway made them both turn. Mia and Zoe were peeking around the corner, eyes wide. Is Mama okay? Mia asked. Adrienne immediately wiped her face and smiled, and Nathan was struck by how strong she was. How she could be falling apart one moment and put herself back together for her daughters the next. "Mama's fine, sweetheart. Mr. Reed and I were just talking. Are you hungry?" Both girls nodded enthusiastically. "Good, because he's ordered enough pizza to feed an army." The girls' faces lit up. They ran over and Nathan found himself being hugged by two 4-year-olds who barely came up to his waist. "Thank you for saving us," Zoe said seriously. "And for bringing pizza." Nathan laughed, and it was the first genuine laugh he'd had in longer than he could remember. "You're very welcome." Over the girls' heads, his eyes met Adrian's. This was complicated. Impossibly complicated. There were questions to answer, logistics to figure out, potential danger from people who might still be looking for Adrian. But looking at this woman and these children, Nathan knew he'd meant what he said. He wasn't leaving, not this time, not ever. Whatever it took, he was going to protect them. All 3 of them. The pizza arrived 20 minutes later, delivered by a confused driver who'd clearly never been to this neighborhood before for an order from the expensive Italian place downtown. Nathan tipped him lavishly and brought the food inside. Mia and Zoe's eyes went wide when they saw the boxes. "There's so much," Mia whispered. They sat on the floor around the coffee table because there wasn't a proper dining table. Adrian pulled out mismatched plates and cups, clearly embarrassed by the humble setting, but Nathan didn't care. He watched Mia and Zoe carefully place single slices on their plates, saw them look to their mother for permission before taking even that much, and something inside him broke all over again. "You can have as much as you want," he said gently. "There's plenty." They ate slowly at first, like they were savoring every bite. Then faster, like they were afraid the food might disappear. Adrian barely ate anything, just watched her daughters with an expression of mingled joy and heartbreak. Nathan noticed everything. The way the girls' clothes were clean but worn. The way Adrian's hands had calluses from hard work. The way the apartment had almost nothing in it. No TV, no computer, just books and handmade toys. These were his daughters. Growing up with nothing while he'd been living in a penthouse and barely noticing what he spent on a single meal. The guilt was staggering. After dinner, Mia and Zoe started yawning. The day's ordeal was catching up with them. "Bath time," Adrian announced. "Say thank you to Mr. Reed." "Thank you," they chorused. "You're welcome, and you can call me Nathan if you want." They giggled at that and ran off to the bathroom. Nathan could hear water running, hear Adrian's soft voice as she helped them. He used the time to look around more carefully. On the makeshift bookshelf, he noticed several books in French. On the wall, a hand-drawn family tree that showed Mama and Mia and Zoe but no other names. A family of 3, complete in themselves because they'd had to be. Adrian emerged 20 minutes later. They're in bed, they want to say goodnight. Nathan followed her down the narrow hallway to a small bedroom with a single twin bed and a sleeping bag on the floor. The girls were sharing the bed, already drowsy. "Will you come visit us again?" Zoe asked sleepily. Nathan crouched down beside the bed. "Yes, if that's okay with your mama." "It's okay," Mia said confidently. "Mama likes you. She smiles different when she looks at you." Adrian made a strangled noise behind him. Nathan glanced back at her, saw her face was bright red, then looked at the girls again. "Well, I like your mama too. And I like both of you very much. Even though we got lost? Even though you got lost. But no more going into the woods alone, okay? It's dangerous." "Okay," they promised. He stood up, and Adrian moved forward to tuck them in properly, kissing their foreheads, whispering goodnight in French. Back in the living room, the atmosphere had shifted. It was late. The sun had set. They were alone. "I should go," Nathan said, though he didn't want to. "Nathan, wait." Adrian twisted her hands together. "I need to know what you want. From this situation. From us. I want to be part of their lives. I want to support them. Support you." "As what? A benefactor? A distant father who sends money?" "As their father. Present. Involved. Active." She paled. "Nathan, That's complicated. Legally, they don't have your name. There's no record of you as their father. I didn't list anyone on the birth certificate. Then we'll fix that. I'll talk to my lawyers. We'll establish paternity, work out custody arrangements. Custody? Panic flashed across her face. You want to take them from me? No. God, no. I want shared custody. I want them to know me, spend time with me, but I'm not trying to take them away from you. She relaxed slightly. Okay. We can figure that out. There's something else we need to talk about. What? Your uncle, Pierre. If they're still looking for you, if they find out you're here with me, with children. He didn't finish the sentence. Adrienne wrapped her arms around herself. I know. I've thought about it. But I can't live in hiding forever. And I can't keep the girls locked up out of fear. No. But I can protect you, all of you. I have resources, security, legal teams. Nathan, you don't understand the kind of people they are. My uncle has connections in multiple countries. Pierre has friends in very dark places. If they decide to come after me, then they'll have to go through me first. His voice was steel. And I don't lose, Adrienne. Not when it matters. She looked at him for a long moment. You've changed. You're harder than you were 7 years ago. I had to be. The business world isn't kind to soft people. He paused. But you've changed too. You're stronger, fiercer. I had to be. Single motherhood isn't kind either. They stood there in the dim light of the cheap lamp, studying each other, seeing both the people they'd been and the people they'd become. Stay, Adrienne said suddenly. Nathan's heart jumped. What? Not like that. I mean, it's late, and I think we should talk more about logistics, about how this is going to work. She gestured to a worn armchair. You can take the chair. I'll take the couch. The girls sleep heavy. We can talk. It was a terrible idea. His back would hate him in the morning. He had meetings tomorrow that he should prepare for. Okay, he said. They settled in, Nathan in the armchair, Adrienne on the couch with a blanket wrapped around her. Tell me about them, Nathan said. Everything. I've missed 4 years, I want to know. So Adrienne told him. About the pregnancy, the fear, the joy when the girls were born. About Mia's first word, mama, and Zoe's first steps. About how they were different. Mia more cautious and thoughtful, Zoe more adventurous and impulsive. About the hard times. The nights when they'd all slept in a car because she couldn't afford rent. The times she'd skipped meals so the girls could eat. The illnesses she'd treated at home because she couldn't afford a doctor. Nathan listened to all of it, his rage at the situation growing with every story. You should have told me, he said finally. I know why you didn't, but Adrienne, I could have helped. I would have helped. I know, I'm sorry. Don't apologize, just let me help now. How? Nathan, you live in a completely different world. You're a billionaire. I'm barely scraping by. How do we make that work? Money is just a tool. We'll figure out the rest. He leaned forward. First priority is getting you and the girls somewhere safe. This building, no offense, isn't secure. The neighborhood has high crime rates. I did research on the way here. I can't afford anywhere else. I'm not asking you to. I have a house, several actually, but my main residence is in Madison Park. 8 bedrooms, gated, security system, the works. You and the girls can move in. Adrienne's eyes went wide. Nathan, we can't just move into your house. Why not? Because... She struggled for words. Because that's crazy. We barely know each other anymore. And what would people think? I don't care what people think. And we're the parents of 4-year-old twins. We need to get to know each other again anyway. This way the girls have stability, safety, and both parents under one roof. You're talking about us living together. I'm talking about co-parenting in a safe environment. You can have your own suite. Complete privacy. The girls can have proper bedrooms, a yard to play in. Security so you never have to worry about them getting lost again. Adrienne stood up, pacing. This is too much, too fast. Those girls asked for food scraps today. They got lost in the woods. How much more do you need before you accept help? The words came out harsher than he'd intended. Adrian flinched. I'm sorry, Nathan said immediately. I'm sorry. No, you're right. Adrian's voice was quiet. I'm being prideful. The girls deserve better than what I can give them alone. I don't want to be a charity case. You're not. He stopped. You're the mother of my children. This isn't charity. It's family. Her eyes met his. Is that what we are? Family? I don't know what else to call it. She was quiet for a long time. Then, if we do this, I need rules. Okay. I'm not your employee, not your dependent. I'm an equal partner in raising the girls. Agreed? I want to contribute. I'll work. I'll pay my share. Adrian. I'm serious, Nathan. I need to maintain my independence. I can't be financially dependent on you. It's not healthy. He wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she didn't need to work, that he had more than enough money for all of them. But he recognized the look in her eyes. She needed this. Okay, but not 3 jobs, 1 job, something reasonable that doesn't run you into the ground. 1 job, she conceded, and I want legal documentation, custody agreement, everything in writing, so we both know where we stand. My lawyers will draft something, we'll review it together. And if this doesn't work, if living together is too weird or too hard, we agree to find another arrangement. No hard feelings. Deal. Nathan stood and held out his hand. Partners? Adrian looked at his hand, then up at his face. Then she took his hand and shook it. Partners. The handshake lasted a moment too long. Their eyes held. The air between them felt charged, full of 7 years of history and questions, and something that felt dangerously like the attraction that had drawn them together in the first place. Adrian pulled her hand back first. You should get some sleep. The chair isn't comfortable, but it's better than nothing. I've slept in worse places. She raised an eyebrow. Really? The billionaire CEO has slept in worse places than a threadbare armchair? I wasn't always a billionaire. I worked my way through college doing construction, slept in my car more than once. I didn't know that. We didn't talk much about our past that week 7 years ago. No, she said softly. We were too busy living in the moment. The memory hung between them. That week when they'd been completely wrapped up in each other, existing in a bubble where the outside world didn't matter. Nathan cleared his throat. Get some rest, Adrian. Tomorrow we'll start figuring out logistics. Good night, Nathan. Good night. She disappeared into the bedroom she apparently shared with the girls. Nathan settled into the uncomfortable chair, pulled out his phone, and started making lists. Talk to lawyers about paternity and custody. Hire additional security for Adrienne and the girls. Research the Laurent family and Pierre Dubois. Arrange movers for the apartment. Figure out how to tell his business partners and his mother that he suddenly had a family. That last one was going to be interesting. His mother, Patricia Reed, was not going to take this well. She'd been pressuring him to settle down for years, but probably not like this. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Tonight, he was in a tiny apartment in Beacon Hill, listening to the sounds of the building settling, knowing that just down the hall were 3 people who'd become the center of his world in the span of a few hours. He'd spent 7 years building an empire, making money, acquiring power, and none of it had felt as important as this moment. Sitting in an uncomfortable chair, planning how to protect a woman he'd never forgotten, and daughters he'd just met. Nathan finally dozed off around 2 a.m., his last conscious thought being that everything was about to change. He had no idea how much. The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind. Nathan's lawyers drew up custody agreements and paternity documents. DNA tests were administered, though Nathan knew what they'd show, and confirmed Mia and Zoe were his daughters. The legal acknowledgement hit differently than he'd expected. Seeing his name on official documents as their father made it real in a way nothing else had. Adrian and the girls moved into his house in Madison Park, watching them explore the place, the girls gasping at their own rooms, Adrienne trying to hide her tears when she saw the nursery Nathan had hastily converted into a playroom was both joyful and heartbreaking. They've never had their own beds before, Adrienne had whispered. They've always shared. Nathan hired a full-time security team. Marcus personally vetted everyone and set up protocols. No one came or went from the property without being logged. Perimeter sensors, cameras, the works. Adrienne protested at first, but Nathan was firm. Until we know your uncle and Pierre aren't looking for you, we don't take chances. He also hired a private investigator to research Marcel Laurent and Pierre Dubois. The results came back 3 weeks after the girls had been found, and Nathan read the report in his office with growing fury. Marcel Laurent was exactly as bad as Adrienne had described. Wealthy, connected, ruthless. He'd built his fortune through a combination of legitimate business and activities that skirted the edges of legality. He had connections to politicians, law enforcement, and some very unsavory characters. Pierre Dubois was worse. Much worse. The man had a history of violence against women. 2 ex-wives, both of whom had fled and then recanted their abuse allegations after mysterious accidents befell family members. Multiple restraining orders that had somehow been dismissed. Connections to organized crime in France and elsewhere. This was the man Marcel Laurent had wanted Adrienne to marry. The man who still, according to the investigators' sources, occasionally asked about the runaway niece and whether anyone had located her. Nathan sat back in his chair, his jaw tight. They were still looking. After 7 years, they were still looking. He pulled out his phone and called his head of legal. "Brian, I need you to do something for me. Quietly." "Of course, Mr. Reed, what do you need?" "I want to make someone disappear. Legally. New identity, documentation, the works. Can we do that?" There was a pause. "For whom?" "Adrienne Hayes. And I want to expedite the process to add my daughters to my will. Set up trusts. Everything. If anything happens to me, they're protected." "Sir, is everything all right?" "Just being cautious. Can you do it?" "Yes, it'll take some time and it's not cheap, but yes." "Cost doesn't matter. How fast can we move?" 2 to 3 weeks for the identity documentation. The will and trusts I can have drafted by end of week." "Do it." Nathan hung up and looked at the report again. Then he made another call, this one to a very different type of contact. "Jackson, I need information on someone, and I need to know if there's a way to make certain people lose interest in finding someone else." The man on the other end of the line, Jackson Cole, a former intelligence operative who now ran a very discreet security consulting firm, didn't ask questions. "Send me the details. I'll see what I can do." Nathan sent the report and sat back. He wasn't naive enough to think he could make Marcel Laurent and Pierre Dubois disappear, but he could make it clear that Adrienne was under powerful protection now, that pursuing her would have consequences. A knock on his office door made him look up. Adrienne stood in the doorway, looking uncertain. She'd been working at his company for 2 weeks now. Not because she needed to, Nathan would have supported her happily, but because she'd insisted on earning her own way. He'd found her a position in his Paris office liaison division where her fluent French and cultural knowledge were valuable. She was good at it too. Scary good. Within a week, she'd identified inefficiencies in their French partnerships and suggested solutions that had saved the company $250,000. She wasn't just beautiful and fierce. She was brilliant. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. "Always. Come in." She closed the door behind her and sat across from his desk. They'd fallen into a strange routine over the past 3 weeks. Polite, careful, co-parents who shared a house and children but maintained careful distance. Nathan hated it. He wanted to pull her close, wanted to know everything about her, wanted to reclaim what they'd had 7 years ago. But Adrienne had made it clear she needed space, needed time, needed to figure out who she was now that she wasn't just surviving. So Nathan waited, and tried not to think about the fact that she was sleeping 3 doors down from him every night. "I got a call today," Adrienne said, "from an old friend, someone I knew before I ran." Nathan tensed. "Someone who knows your uncle?" "Yes, she's getting married." In Paris. She wants me to come. Absolutely not. Adrienne's eyes flashed. Excuse me? It's too dangerous. If your uncle finds out you're in Paris. Nathan, I can't live my life in hiding forever. Claudine is my oldest friend. We grew up together. I want to be there for her wedding. Then we'll fly her here. I'll pay for everything. She can get married in Seattle. That's not the same, and you know it. Nathan stood up, running his hands through his hair. Adrienne, you haven't seen the report. Pierre is still looking for you. Your uncle asks about you. If you show up in Paris, if anyone recognizes you, then I'll deal with it. I'm not a scared 21-year-old anymore, Nathan. I'm a mother. I'm stronger than I was. I know you're strong, but being strong doesn't make you bulletproof. She stood too, moving around the desk until she was right in front of him. I appreciate what you're doing, the protection, the security, but I need to live, Nathan, not just survive. Live. They were so close. Close enough that he could smell her shampoo, see the gold flecks in her blue eyes, feel the warmth radiating from her skin. If something happened to you, Nathan said quietly, Mia and Zoe would be devastated. I would be... He stopped. You'd be what? Destroyed, wrecked, lost. But he couldn't say that, couldn't put that weight on her. Concerned, he finished lamely. Adrienne studied his face. You're a terrible liar. You know that? I've been told. She reached up and placed her hand on his chest, right over his heart. He stopped breathing. I need to go to this wedding, Nathan. I need to prove to myself that I'm not hiding anymore, that I'm not going to let fear control my life. Then let me come with you. Her eyes widened. What? Let me come to Paris. As your partner. We'll bring security. We'll be careful. But at least I'll be there. Nathan, please. If you're going to walk into potential danger, let me be there. Let me protect you. She looked at him for a long moment. Her hand was still on his chest. He covered it with his own. Partners? She asked softly, echoing what they'd said 3 weeks ago. Partners, he confirmed. Okay, we'll go together. But Nathan? Yes? We need to talk about what's happening here between us. His heart hammered. What do you mean? You know exactly what I mean. The way you look at me, the way I catch myself looking at you. We can't keep pretending there's nothing there. I didn't think you wanted... I don't know what I want, she interrupted. 7 years ago, we had a week. It was perfect, but it wasn't real. It was a fantasy. Now we're living together, raising children, building a life. And I don't know if what I'm feeling is real or if it's just nostalgia, gratitude, fear. Nathan very carefully removed his hand from hers and stepped back. It was one of the hardest things he'd ever done. When you figure it out, he said, his voice rough, let me know. Pain flashed across her face. Nathan, I'm not playing games, Adrienne. I told you I'm not leaving. I meant it. But I'm not going to push you into something you're not ready for. When you want me, if you want me, I'll be here. He moved past her, heading for the door. Where are you going? I have a meeting. I'll see you at dinner. He left before she could respond, before he could do something stupid like kiss her, before he could beg her to give them another chance. In the hallway, he leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. This was torture. Living with her, seeing her every day, watching her be an amazing mother to their daughters and not being able to touch her, hold her, tell her that he'd been half in love with her 7 years ago and was falling the rest of the way now. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Perimeter alert. Someone asking questions about the property at the gate. Nathan's protective instincts kicked into overdrive. He dialed Marcus immediately. What's happening? Guy in an expensive car. French plates. Says he's looking for an old friend. Described Adrienne perfectly. Ice flooded Nathan's veins. Do not let him in. Do not confirm or deny anyone lives here. Get his plate number and photo if possible. Already done. Sending to you now. The photo came through. Nathan's investigator had included pictures in his report. The man at the gate was Pierre Dubois. They'd found her. Nathan moved fast. He called security, had Pierre removed from the property with a threat to call the police for trespassing. Then he called Jackson Cole. The situation just escalated. I'm sending you a photo. This man showed up at my house asking about Adrienne. I need to know everything. How he found her, what his intentions are, and how to make him go away. Permanently if necessary. Legally permanently, or I don't care, whatever it takes. He hung up and went to find Adrienne. She was in the playroom with Mia and Zoe reading them a story. The scene was so domestic, so perfect, so utterly normal that Nathan's heart ached. This was what he was protecting. This peace. This safety. Girls, he said gently, can I borrow your mama for a minute? They pouted but nodded. Nathan and Adrienne stepped into the hallway. What's wrong? She asked immediately. You look terrified. Pierre Dubois was just at the gate asking about you. All the color drained from her face. What? He's gone now. Security removed him. But Adrienne, he knows you're in Seattle. He knows you're connected to me. We need to assume he'll be back. She started to shake. Nathan caught her arms, steadied her. Hey, look at me. I'm not going to let him hurt you. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you or the girls. You don't understand. Pierre doesn't give up. If he wants something, he takes it. And he's wanted me for 7 years. Then we make it clear you're not available to be taken. How? Nathan had been thinking about this for 3 weeks. Had been planning for it without admitting to himself what he was planning. Marry me. Adrienne's eyes went huge. What? Marry me. Legal marriage. Public announcement. Make it clear to Pierre and your uncle that you're under my protection. That you're my wife. That any move against you is a move against me and my company and my legal team. Nathan, that's insane. We can't get married just to scare off my stalker. Why not? We have children together. We're already living together. We're already partners. Why not make it legal? Because marriage is supposed to be about love, not strategy. The words hung between them. Nathan took a breath. You asked me earlier what's happening between us, what I feel. Nathan, I loved you 7 years ago, not just infatuation, not just attraction. I loved you. When you left, it nearly destroyed me. I built this empire because I needed something to focus on that wasn't missing you. Adrienne's eyes filled with tears. And now you're back, Nathan continued, and you're even more incredible than you were. You're fierce and brilliant, and you're the best mother I've ever seen. You make me want to be better. You make me feel alive. So yes, marrying you would be strategic. It would protect you. But it wouldn't be fake. Not for me. I can't make this decision right now. Not with Pierre out there, not with everything. I know. I'm not asking for an answer right now. I'm just telling you the option exists. Think about it. He turned to go. Nathan, wait. He stopped. I loved you too. 7 years ago. That's why leaving hurt so much. Her voice broke. And I'm terrified that I'm falling for you again. Because what if it's just the situation? What if I'm confusing gratitude and attraction and the need for protection with actual love? What if we make this legal and then realize we made a mistake? Nathan turned back to face her. Then we'd be like half the couples in the world, making it work because we want to, because we choose each other every day. That's not the fairy tale. No, it's better. It's real. They stared at each other. The air felt electric. Then Mia's voice called from the playroom. Mama, Zoe took my book. The spell broke. Adrienne wiped her eyes. I need to go. We'll talk later. She disappeared back into the playroom. Nathan headed to his office and called his lawyers. Brian, I need a marriage license fast-tracked, and I need a prenup drawn up. Sir? Adrienne Hayes and I are getting married, possibly as soon as this week. I need all the legal ducks in a row. That's sudden, congratulations. Thanks. Can you do it? Yes, I'll have documents ready by tomorrow morning. Next, Nathan called his mother. This conversation was not going to be fun. Nathan, darling, to what do I owe the pleasure? Patricia Reed was a force of nature, 62 years old, sharp as a tack and terrifyingly perceptive. Mother, I need to tell you something. Oh dear, that tone usually means something dramatic. What is it? Another corporate merger? Please tell me you're not thinking of selling the company. I'm getting married, and you have twin granddaughters. Silence. Complete, total silence. Mother? I'm sorry. I could have sworn you just told me you're getting married and I have granddaughters. I did. Nathan Augustus Reed, you have exactly 60 seconds to explain before I drive over there and demand answers in person. So Nathan explained. The charity gala 7 years ago. Adrienne's disappearance. Finding Mia and Zoe. The threats from Pierre and Marcel. All of it. When he finished, his mother was quiet for a long moment. Bring them to dinner, she finally said. Tomorrow. I want to meet my granddaughters and the woman who managed to capture your heart. Mother. Tomorrow, Nathan, 6 p.m., don't be late. She hung up. Nathan sighed and added survive dinner with mother to his growing list of challenges. His phone rang again. Jackson Cole. I have information. It's not good. Tell me. Pierre Dubois flew into Seattle 3 days ago. He's been asking around, showing photos of Adrienne. He's got connections with some unsavory people here. Word is he's planning to take her back to France, by force if necessary. Nathan's blood ran cold. He's planning to kidnap her. Essentially, yes. He considers her his property. The marriage arrangement was never formally broken, and in his mind, she still belongs to him. What can we do legally? Restraining order, but it's hard to enforce against someone with his resources. Best option is to make it clear she's no longer available. Public marriage announcement would help. But Nathan, this guy doesn't play by the rules. If he decides to act, a piece of paper won't stop him. Then we need to be smarter than him. I'm working on it. I have some ideas, but in the meantime, don't let Adrienne go anywhere without security. And I mean anywhere. Understood. Keep me posted. Nathan hung up and sat back in his chair. Everything was falling apart faster than he could shore it up. A knock on the door. Adrienne again. Come in. She entered and closed the door. I've been thinking about your proposal, if that's what it was. Nathan's heart hammered. And? If we do this, if we get married, I have conditions. Name them. I want it to be real, not fake, not just for show. If we're going to be married, we're going to try to make it work. Actually work. I can agree to that. And I want time. I know we need to move fast because of Pierre, but I need time to process everything, to figure out my feelings. How much time? I don't know. A few weeks? A month? Nathan shook his head. We don't have a month. Pierre is planning to take you by force. He's been here for 3 days making arrangements. Adrienne went pale. How do you know that? I have people, they're good at their jobs. He stood and moved toward her. I'm not trying to rush you, but the threat is real and it's imminent. We need to act. She wrapped her arms around herself. This is so messed up. Getting married to escape a kidnapping plot. We're not getting married to escape a kidnapping plot. We're getting married because we have children together and we care about each other and it makes sense. The fact that it also solves a security problem is a bonus. You make it sound so logical. Someone has to be. You're terrified and I'm trying not to kill someone. Logic is all I have left. She laughed, but it was shaky. Okay, let's do it. But Nathan, if we're going to be married, really married, that means... What? That means we have to be honest with each other. About everything. No more careful distance. No more pretending we don't feel what we feel. Nathan closed the distance between them. I can do that, can you? I don't know, but I'm willing to try. He reached out and cupped her face with one hand. She leaned into the touch, her eyes closing. We'll figure it out, Nathan said softly. Together. Together, she echoed. They stood like that for a moment, the world narrowing to just the two of them. Then Nathan leaned down and pressed his forehead to hers. "I'm going to protect you," he whispered. "Whatever it takes. I promise." "I know," she whispered back. "I trust you." Those 3 words, "I trust you," hit harder than any declaration of love could have. The next morning, Nathan and Adrian signed a marriage license. The prenup was simple. Everything protected for the girls, arrangements in case of divorce, but also provisions for Adrian to have genuine security regardless of what happened. "We should do it quickly," Nathan's lawyer advised. "If Pierre tries anything legally, being married gives you much stronger standing." So they planned a small ceremony for 3 days later, just immediate family, Nathan's mother, a few close friends, and of course Mia and Zoe. The girls were ecstatic when they found out. "Mama's marrying Nathan," Mia squealed. "Does that mean he's our papa?" Adrian looked at Nathan. He nodded. "Yes, sweetheart, that's exactly what it means." The girls launched themselves at Nathan, hugging him with the unself-conscious love of children who'd already decided he belonged to them. Over their heads, Nathan's eyes met Adrian's. This was it. No going back now. In 3 days, she would be his wife. And he would spend the rest of his life making sure she never regretted it. The wedding was small but perfect. They held it in the garden of Nathan's house, now their house, under a canopy of white flowers. Patricia Reed had taken charge of the planning with terrifying efficiency, and despite having only 3 days, she'd created something beautiful. Mia and Zoe wore matching white dresses and carried baskets of rose petals. They took their job as flower girls very seriously, concentrating hard on spreading the petals evenly. Nathan stood at the altar in a dark suit, his heart hammering as he waited. Then Adrian appeared. She wore a simple cream-colored dress that Patricia had somehow found on impossibly short notice. Her blonde hair was loose around her shoulders. She carried a small bouquet of white roses. She was the most beautiful thing Nathan had ever seen. She walked down the aisle alone, no one to give her away because she belonged to herself. And when she reached Nathan, her hands were shaking. He took them in his, steadying her. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi," she whispered back. The officiant began speaking, but Nathan barely heard him. He was too focused on Adrian's face, on the way she was looking at him like he was something precious. When it came time for vows, Nathan had prepared something simple. "Adrian, 7 years ago, I spent 1 week with you and it changed my life. I've spent 7 years trying to move on and failing. Now I get a second chance and I'm not wasting it. I promise to protect you, support you, and be the partner you deserve. I promise to be the father our daughters need. And I promise to love you every day for the rest of my life." Adrian's eyes were bright with tears. "Nathan," she began, her voice shaking. "I ran from you 7 years ago because I was scared. Scared of my uncle, scared of Pierre, scared of hoping for something better. I've spent 7 years surviving, protecting our daughters, and trying not to think about what I'd lost. You gave me a second chance too, and I promise to be brave enough to take it. I promise to trust you, stand with you, and build a life with you. And I promise to love you, today and always." They exchanged rings, simple bands that Patricia had somehow also procured on short notice. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant said. "You may kiss the bride." Nathan cupped Adrian's face and kissed her softly, carefully, aware that their daughters were watching. But the kiss still sent electricity through both of them, still made the world tilt and reset. When they pulled apart, Mia and Zoe were clapping enthusiastically. Patricia was dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. The small group of friends and employees Nathan had invited applauded. "Ladies and gentlemen," the officiant announced, "I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Nathan Reed." Adrian laughed and kissed Nathan again. "Mrs. Reed, that sounds so strange." "Get used to it," Nathan murmured against her lips. The reception was small and intimate. Dinner in the garden, champagne, a simple cake. Mia and Zoe ran around the yard with more energy than should be possible, high on cake and excitement. Patricia cornered Adrienne at one point. "Welcome to the family," she said warmly. "I know this happened quickly, but I can see how my son looks at you, and those girls are absolutely wonderful." "Thank you," Adrienne said. "I'm sorry we didn't tell you sooner about the girls." Patricia waved a hand. Nathan explained the situation. "What matters is you're safe now. All of you. And I finally have the grandchildren I've been pestering him about for years." As the sun set, Nathan found Adrienne standing alone at the edge of the garden, looking out at the city lights in the distance. He came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. She leaned back against him. "Hi, wife," he murmured. "Hi, husband. Having regrets yet? Ask me again in 50 years. He laughed and kissed the top of her head. "Deal." They stood like that for a while, just holding each other, watching the sky darken. "Nathan? Thank you. For finding the girls. For protecting us. For giving us a chance at a real life. You don't have to thank me. This is what family does." She turned in his arms to face him. "I want this to be real. Not just legally. I want to actually try. Build a marriage, not just a security arrangement. I want that too. It's going to be hard. We have a lot to figure out. About us, about the girls, about Pierre and my uncle. I know, but we'll figure it out. Together." She smiled and kissed him. Not the careful kiss from the ceremony, but a real kiss. Deep and searching and full of promise. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. "We should probably get back to the party," Adrienne said. "Probably. Or we could sneak away and let Patricia handle the guests." She laughed. "On our wedding night with a 4-year-old's bedtime routine to handle, not a chance. Worth a try." They walked back to the party hand in hand. Mia saw them and ran over. "Mama, Papa, come dance." "Papa." The word made Nathan's heart squeeze. "Of course, sweetheart." They danced with their daughters in the garden as the stars came out. At one point, Zoe fell asleep on Nathan's shoulder and Mia on Adrienne's, and they carried them inside together to put them to bed. Standing in the girls' room, watching them sleep peacefully, Nathan felt something settle in his chest. This was right. This was what he'd been missing without knowing it. "They're so peaceful," Adrienne whispered. "They're safe. That makes all the difference." Back in the hallway, they stood awkwardly. This was their wedding night, but they'd agreed to take things slow. Adrienne still had her own suite. "I should," she started. "Yeah, I should," Nathan said at the same time. They laughed. "This is weird," Adrienne admitted. "Very weird. We're married but sleeping in separate rooms. Is that okay? I just need a little more time to—" Nathan kissed her forehead. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. The piece of paper is signed. You're my wife. Everything else we can figure out at our own pace." She looked relieved. "Thank you for understanding. Always." She kissed his cheek and disappeared into her suite. Nathan went to his own room and got ready for bed, feeling both satisfied and restless. His phone buzzed. A message from Jackson Cole. "Update on the Pierre situation. Call me when you can." Nathan dialed immediately, stepping out onto his private balcony to avoid disturbing Adrienne. "What do you have?" "Good news and bad news. Good news, I've put the word out through certain channels that Adrienne Reed, note the new last name, is under protection, and that any moves against her will have serious consequences. Pierre has heard this. He's not happy. And the bad news? He's not backing down. He sees it as a challenge. He's planning something, Nathan. I don't know what yet, but my sources say he's not leaving Seattle until he gets what he came for." Nathan's grip tightened on the phone. "Then we make it clear he's not getting what he came for. Escalate the message. I don't care what it costs. I want him to understand that coming after my family is the worst mistake he could make. I'm on it, but Nathan, be careful. This guy is dangerous and he's not rational when it comes to Adrienne. Obsession makes people unpredictable. I'll be careful. Keep me posted." Nathan hung up and stood on the balcony for a long time, looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Pierre Dubois was planning his next move. But Nathan was planning too. And he had resources Pierre couldn't match: legal teams, security experts, and most importantly, absolute determination to protect his family. He went back inside and checked on the girls one more time. They were still sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of the danger. That was how it should be. Nathan would handle the threats. They would stay safe and innocent. He finally went to bed around midnight, exhausted but wired. Sleep didn't come easily. But knowing that Adrian and the girls were safe in his house, legally his family now, made it easier. This was his life now: husband, father, protector, and he'd never been more certain of anything in his life. Epilogue. 23 years later, Nathan stood in the same garden where he'd married Adrian, watching his daughters get ready for their college graduation party. Mia and Zoe were 27 now, impossibly grown up. Mia had just finished her master's in international relations and was starting a job at the United Nations. Zoe had graduated from medical school and was beginning her residency in pediatrics. They were brilliant, accomplished, and nothing like the terrified 4-year-olds he'd found in that cave so long ago. "Papa," Zoe called, "come take pictures with us." Nathan smiled and walked over, wrapping his arms around both daughters. They were tall now, nearly his height, but they still hugged him like they had when they were small. Adrian emerged from the house carrying a tray of drinks, and Nathan's heart did the same skip it had done 23 years ago. She was 51 now. There were lines around her eyes and silver threading through her blonde hair. She was even more beautiful than she'd been at 28. "Getting sentimental?" she teased, seeing his expression. "Always." The party filled up with friends, family, and colleagues. Patricia Reed, now 85 and still sharp as ever, held court from a comfortable chair, regaling anyone who'd listen with stories about her granddaughters. At one point, Nathan found himself alone with Adrian on the same spot where they'd stood on their wedding night. "Remember this?" he asked, pulling her close. "Every detail. You asked if I had regrets. And you said to ask you again in 50 years. We're almost halfway there." "No regrets," Adrian said firmly. "Not one. Not even the first year when Pierre kept trying." They'd dealt with Pierre's threats for 18 months before Jackson Cole had finally gathered enough evidence of his criminal activities to have him arrested in France. He was serving 20 years. Marcel Laurent had died 5 years after their wedding, his empire collapsing under investigation. Adrian and the girls had been free ever since. Not even that, because we handled it together, just like we've handled everything. Nathan kissed her, soft and familiar. 23 years of marriage and he still loved kissing her. "Papa, Mama, come cut the cake," Mia called. They walked back to the party hand in hand. The cake was enormous, decorated with photos from the girls' lives, baby pictures, elementary school, high school, college. As Nathan helped cut the cake, he caught sight of one photo in particular: Mia and Zoe at age 4, holding hands, wearing their pink hoodies from the day they'd been lost. Adrienne had kept those hoodies. They were in a memory box upstairs, along with the blankets from the helicopter and the simple cream dress she'd worn to their wedding. "What are you thinking about?" she asked quietly. "About how one phone call changed everything. Best wrong number ever dialed." "Definitely." Later, when the party had wound down and the girls were saying goodbye to friends, Nathan and Adrienne stood together watching. "They're going to be amazing," Adrienne said. Mia changing the world through diplomacy. Zoe saving children's lives. "They learned from the best," Nathan replied. "Their mother survived everything the world threw at her and still came out kind and strong. Their father dropped everything to save 2 lost little girls and spent the next 23 years making sure they knew they were loved." Nathan pulled her closer. "We did okay, didn't we? We did better than okay. We built something real." "Yeah, we did." Mia and Zoe ran over one more time. "We're going out with friends," Mia said. "Don't wait up." "Be safe," Nathan said automatically. "We will, Papa," Zoe promised. She kissed both parents' cheeks. "Love you." "Love you too," they chorused. The girls left in a flurry of laughter and excitement. The house grew quiet. Nathan and Adrian stood in the garden as the stars came out, just like they had on their wedding night. "Just us again," Adrian said. "Just us. What should we do with all this free time now that the girls are grown?" Nathan pretended to consider. "Travel. Patricia's been pestering us to take a real honeymoon for 23 years. We could finally do that trip to Paris, show Pierre Dubois what he lost. Or we could just stay here, enjoy the quiet." Adrian laughed. "You've never enjoyed quiet in your life. I enjoy it with you." She turned in his arms to face him. "Nathan Reed, are you getting sappy in your old age? I'm 57. That's not old. Tell that to your back after you tried to play basketball with Zoe last week. That was a strategic injury to let her win." "Sure it was." They laughed together, and Nathan thought about how this easy affection, this deep knowledge of each other, was what he'd wanted all along. "I love you," he said. "Have I told you that today?" "Only 3 times. You're slacking." "I love you. 4. She kissed him. "I love you too. Forever and always." "Forever and always," he agreed. They stood in the garden under the stars, 2 people who'd found each other twice, built a family, survived threats and challenges, and come out stronger. Somewhere in the house, the photo albums held the evidence. 2 little girls in a cave growing into strong women, a scared young mother becoming a confident partner, a ruthless CEO learning to love. But here, in the quiet of the garden, it was just Nathan and Adrian, husband and wife, partners, best friends, still falling in love, every single day, just like they'd promised 23 years ago. The end.